everyone, and welcome to the Man of Steel panel. I'm Captain Logan, and with me I've got lots of folks. Today we've got Brandon Grimm.
Hello, how are you?
We've got the Real Manos.
I'm the Manos of Steel.
We've got Dan Torrey.
Yo.
And we've got Oliver.
Hello, everyone.
So let's go ahead and start off right away going round robin. I'm assuming everyone's seen the film.
What?
Of course.
Crap, we were supposed to see the movie?
Yeah, we were supposed to. I was like,
I think I slept through that screening.
oh man.
That's the entire
Oops.
thing.
Do you mind waiting?
So we'll be back with you in approximately 143 minutes.
I'll be right back.
Holy cow.
But make sure that you watch this 143-minute long Superman film and not the other 143-minute long Superman film. And we're gonna start right away with Manos. We're gonna go round robin, and this is how I usually like to do these panels. I want you to give me your biggest positive and your biggest negative about the film, and we'll use that to jumpstart our review. Go ahead, Manos.
Well, this is a non-spoiler discussion, right?
No,
I mean, this is a spoiler discussion.
It's straight up spoiler discussion. Say anything you like.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna talk about this in my spoiler review. I've been thinking about how many times I keep hearing over and over again how much trouble filmmakers have making Superman over Batman. And I don't think it's because Batman is more relatable. I think it's because Batman is cynical and Superman is optimistic. And I think a lot of filmmakers have trouble doing a movie with such an optimistic character. And I think the team here, Goyer, Nolan, and Snyder, do a fantastic job bridging the gap, because what this is, I mean, there's a lot of like dark situations and things put to the brink of destruction. Including one planet destroyed. We have people like, at the edge of their sanity. But the thing that links us through all this is Superman. And I like the fact that we get to spend time with his character. I like the fact that his origin is unfolded through the first half of the movie and in the way it's done instead of a linear fashion like the Donner film. And he is almost treated like almost like in a modern circumstance, like a fireman or any kind of like 9/11 first responder kind of hero in a odd way like that. And he is who he is, and what has happened to him in the past, learning about Krypton, the situation with his father, has all kind of like taken him to this point where when he becomes Superman, he's still learning, by the way. He is still like, the boy from Kansas, the boy who wanted to do good. And I think the film really achieves that well. If I had any problems with the film, I think the pacing, which usually for me works throughout most of the movie, I think sometimes there could have been moments where the film should have taken a few minutes to flesh some things out. And I guess I'll get to that more in the top as the discussion goes on. But there are some times where I feel like, maybe the film should have like held up, like particularly after the big climax, actually. In between that and the epilogue, I think we could have used a couple more scenes to kind of just ground us. But other than that, I really love the relationship between him and Lois. I was really, really excited about that. Also the fact that she knows from the get-go, and she's a partner in this. I thought that was extremely well done, especially since now in the New 52 they've been separated as far as they can almost. So I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm liking it the more I think about it.
Well, now that we've heard Manos' complete review of the film.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Oliver, give me your biggest positive and your biggest negative.
Well, my biggest positive, I would say, Man of Steel is a great science fiction film. the visual design of Krypton and also the ships and things like that when Zod is on that. It essentially is a prison ship, isn't it? Before they go to the Phantom Zone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when it appears in the atmosphere near Earth, the visual design inside was just amazing. And then when I came out seeing the film, I was so exhausted after seeing it. It was because the action was so mental and over the top. It was like, because people spent for years moaning, like, Superman doesn't punch anything, Superman doesn't do any action. They've given you that, and they've turned it up to 11. And people, I'm reading comments and getting emails from people saying, there was too much action. I'm like, really? It's like, you've been given all this and you're still complaining. It's like, but there is a lot of action to it. I'm not going to say there wasn't. But the action, I thoroughly enjoyed the action. It's very difficult to put on film something new in terms with action, because you've all seen it all before. We know with the Avengers, you've got the big battle at the end. Transformers 3, even though it's a terrible film, you've got an epic sort of battle at the end. And it's something, it's visually stunning. But with Man of Steel, it does something new. And then I don't know how it must be a nightmare to pre-visualize and storyboard some of the intense action scenes. But I absolutely adored that. But I think the downside with the film, I need to see it again because I saw it in IMAX 3D, and the 3D was terrible. It was the worst conversion I've ever seen. Because I used to work as a projectionist, and I've dealt with 3D and things like that. And IMAX is supposed to be the best for 3D. And you're seeing this film sort of squashed into like this huge square image instead of a scope image. And it made it sort of jarring. So I need to see the film again in 2D, regular format. To sort of take in the visuals and the photography and appreciate the blocking of all the shots and things like that. But the thing that sort of let me down in a way, it wasn't a bad thing, because a lot of the things people have come across and put the film down, to me they only seem like minor gripes. And they're making these minor gripes and they're blowing them out of proportion, and they're using that to sort of bash the film in a very negative way. But it did lack some of the charm and, say, humour that we've seen before in Superman films, and what you expect from a Superman film, or maybe how Superman is supposed to act. But that's the sort of negative thing, really. There was issues of pacing, but it's first time viewing. It's difficult to judge that completely until you need to see it again and digest everything and see it over time. Henry Cavill was amazing as Superman. He didn't remind me of Christopher Reeve at all. There were some scenes where he's got the suit on and you think it does look like Christopher Reeve. It's quite uncanny. I think because of the jawline and things like that. But his performance reminded me of Alex Ross' version of Superman, even though there isn't Alex Ross' version of Superman in any sort of medium ways, like in a cartoon, whatever. But it reminded me when I read the comics in the past, like Peace on Earth, I think it was. It reminded me of that Superman. And he poses in a way which reminds me of the comics. So he does a great translation of Superman from the comics. And I highly praise it for that. And I think a lot of people are expecting too much from this film, I think. They think it was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And, it turned out to be, a thoroughly entertaining summer blockbuster. And I'd probably put it above all the other Superman films, probably bar the first one. I think it's probably the second best Superman film, in my opinion, to date.
Wow, that's high praise coming from Oliver, because, man, he knows him. Let's go on to Dan. Dan, what's your biggest positive, your biggest negative?
My biggest positive, I think, is one of the things Manos mentioned, which was the non-linear way in which the story was told. I really liked that, because it wasn't like, Batman Begins is a great film, but I think in trying to distance itself from trying to be the same thing, but as a Superman movie, just, plugging things into a formula, it was smart in that we got Superman in the costume pretty quick in the film, and then we could have action spliced throughout the film to keep you excited, to keep you on the edge of your seat with Superman in the costume, but you also could connect with him as a character as they thematically wove his past into the story, and you could see it non-linearly in that way. And most of the time, the scenes from the past that they showed connected very well thematically with what was going on with the story that took place in the present. So I really liked that about it. I also really loved all the Kryptonian culture stuff. That was all fascinating to me. But My biggest negative, I would have to say, is the scene where Superman kills General Zod. Not just, I mean, I don't know if I like Superman killing people personally, but that just the whole scene in general didn't really work for me. As I saw it the first time, I kind of want to see it again and talk with you guys about it, because maybe I just missed something. But I just don't think Superman had to make that choice. Why didn't he just fly away with Zod? Why didn't he just put his hand in front of his eyes? Like, I feel like there's like 4 other things he could have done other than snap his neck in that situation.
Yeah, we'll talk about that probably very thoroughly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that was probably the biggest glaring negative for me. But one of the other ones was they tried to make "I Will Find Him" General Zod's new kneel before Zod thing, but they put all the times he said it in one scene.
Oh, I didn't think of that. All right.
He said, "I will find him" about 6 times. It's like, wow, kneel before Zod wouldn't have been as cool if he had said it 6 times in the same scene, you know? So that was one of my little nitpicks that I thought was sort of funny. But other than that, I think I really enjoyed the film overall. Just some third act observations I have about him. You know, completely destroying Metropolis and probably killing thousands of people and not caring at all.
Killing thousands of people, but then destroying the last member of his race over 3.
Yeah. Third act does get a little lucky for me.
And it's funny, I didn't think of that while watching it. And then when people started talking about collateral damage, I was like, I guess you have a point.
Yeah.
It was like it was like a Superman Doomsday. When in that movie, when Superman takes Doomsday and flies him up into space, I was thinking, oh, fantastic, that's what he should have done in the comics. I never understood why he didn't do it that way. And then he plummets him right back down into the heart of Metropolis. Like, he had his pick of any place in the world. It was
just thrown him into the sun.
So I was sort of thinking that same thing watching this, except that I do feel like with Zod it's a little different because he's sort of stuck fighting Zod wherever Zod is. He can't really just pick him up and take him wherever he wants to take him because he's more, he's got the same powers he has. So how would he do that? My biggest positive, I'm going to echo what Oliver said. I love that we got the bona fide science fiction version of Superman. I've been waiting for this. This is what I've been wanting Superman to be, because Superman at its core is a science fiction story, or at least it's got the bare bones makings of a really good science fiction story. I mean, originally, obviously, there's not a great deal of real science or even pseudoscience built into the idea. It's, a couple people on an alien planet, put a kid in a spaceship and send him to Earth. But there's so much you can do with that if you go back to, especially 50s and 60s, sci-fi film and literature. And, Eric and I were talking about this, and Eric made a really great point when he said that it's not just science fiction, it's pulp sci-fi. And he's spot on about that, I think. It's like a 50s alien invasion movie with the twist of one of the aliens is among us and is gonna be the savior of us. I think that's really good stuff, and I really love that they went there. I am a big fan of the novel Last Days of Krypton, and was floored how much Last Days of Krypton was in this movie. I really didn't expect they were going to use that as any source material whatsoever. And it's all over the Kryptonian stuff. And what's really exciting about it to me is, and this is just sort of a personal thing, but this was really, like from the beginning, I got sucked into this, because when I read that novel, I thought, well, next time they do a Superman movie, they shouldn't even do Superman. They should just do a Krypton movie. They should do the 2-hour Jor-El Zod movie, and then have it end with the destruction of Krypton. I mean, in that novel, we have Jor-El and Zod as good friends for a long time before they finally become enemies, echoing the classic Superman Lex relationship from the Silver Age and then, Smallville. And I love that, and I've always wanted to see that as a movie. Well, the first 20 minutes of Man of Steel is about what I imagined the last 20 minutes of that movie would be.
Oh, wow.
And I was so excited about that. So one of the complaints folks have had, and this is a fair complaint, is that the Kryptonian stuff just kind of throws you right into it, and they would have enjoyed to see more of that relationship with Zod and Jor-El and stuff. Well, that's, in my opinion, a credit to the movie, because that means that they were invested in that relationship and they'd like to see more of it. Or at least that's how I felt about it. And so, from my perspective, I was looking at it as the last 20 minutes of the movie that gets us into Man of Steel. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool. That was really cool. And I also like that the Kryptonian mythos is built 100% into the overall Superman origin story. That Lois Lane is actually discovering Krypton at the same time as she's discovering Superman. That's an inspired choice. And 30 minutes into the movie, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so she just met Superman before he's Superman, and he's not, wearing glasses and looking like Clark Kent yet. I, at this point, have no idea where this movie is going. And I was really enjoying feeling that. Because before the movie came out, when we found out it was going to be Origin again, I was like a lot of people, I was like, I don't want to see another 2 hours of Superman Origin. We've been here before. We've not been here before. This is a totally new ballgame, and yet it was still Superman. And that was really important to me. As far as a big negative goes, it's, because I like the movie so well, I'm having a difficult time pinpointing something that's big enough to call like my biggest problem with it. Though it's certainly got its issues. I thought the action was fine. I know a lot of people are complaining about that. And the collateral damage thing, fair enough. I should probably call that my biggest negative, except I didn't think of it while I was watching the movie.
I certainly did.
But I'm not hearing anybody else complaining about this, so this might be just me. Just from a pure stylistic place, I thought some of the action was filmed a little too close. And this is Snyder. It looked like Snyder, but like there are places where the camera is up so close to people, I'm having a difficult time telling what's going on, and I don't care for that. And there's a lot of CG, and that's fair. There's a lot of things that have to be CG, and it's integrated, I think, as well as they could make it. But there are some places where I was like, oh, that's an animated Superman and an animated Zod, and if they had just scaled back the action a little bit and not gone quite as over the top as Oliver was saying, maybe this wouldn't have to look at CGI as it does. So there were some places like that kind of took me out of the film a little bit. And I mean, I've got other issues with it, but that was the thing that took me out the most. That and some stilted dialogue. It is a Goyer script. It's a really good Goyer script, but there are definitely some places where characters tend to kind of spell things out for an audience. It doesn't happen too much, but especially Justin, I know in your in your non-spoiler review, you said you liked Feora a lot. I liked her too, except that she was the character that the most seemed to be like most of her dialogue seemed to be like quotes out of like a quote book for leadership or something. where it would just be kind of like a platitude where I was like, wow, I feel like I should be writing this stuff down. But anyway, she's like before she came to Earth, she somehow got a copy of Sun Tzu or something. But anyway, those are my positive and negatives. Let's go ahead and just jump into reviewing the film. Go ahead, Brandon.
My positives and negatives.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we skip you?
Yeah, you did.
You mean the guy sitting next to you skipped?
No, I'm not used to having somebody in the room. I'm just looking at Skype and looking at the people on Skype. I'm not used to having somebody in the room.
I was just waiting for you.
And Brandon, I apologize. Go right ahead. I meant to go last and thought I had gone last.
I know you usually do. And I was just like, I'll just let him have his cake.
No,
that's okay. Okay.
Ooh, cake. Go ahead.
My biggest. Oh, by the way, Oliver, I just want to say I love your accent. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
You said General Zod. I was like, oh, that is great. That's the best way to say General Zod ever. Anyway, my biggest positive here was character motivation and how they showed the character's motivation. They didn't come right out and tell us what the characters' motivations were. They kind of gave us a backstory of how the characters came to be the way that they are, and I felt that this was done really well with Clark Kent and really well with General Zod. And just kind of seeing where Zod was coming from and even seeing where Jor-El was coming from, I really enjoyed seeing that. So that was kind of my biggest positive, was seeing, and even Jonathan Kent, all their motivations for how they were the way they were and how they wanted to keep things the way things were, and how Jonathan kept telling Clark that, the world's not ready. There'll be a time, but the world's not ready yet. And how they each took what everyone else was saying to heart. I really enjoyed that. My biggest negative, I would have to say, was definitely, I thought about this in the movie, was the collateral damage. I noticed it a lot. And one thing is that whenever you're dealing with strictly Metropolis, I feel like that's no longer a worldly concern. And that kind of draws me out a little bit, because it's stuck in Metropolis. Even though they're on both sides of the world trying to terraform this world, I felt like we're still stuck in Metropolis. Like, it's only Metropolis's problem. Where's the rest of the world banding together to fight against these guys, right? It's still the United States and Metropolis.
Although they did try to combat that, you're right. They did try to combat that a little bit with showing Zod speaking to people in different languages.
That's true, and I liked that. I wanted more of that. I did, but I thought that was really cool how he basically took over the planet's TVs and audio systems and just displayed everything like, you are not alone. That was good. I also felt like the epic battle on Krypton felt like a worldly battle. So many of these battles that I've seen didn't feel worldly; they feel confined.
You mean like the scope? Was
the
scope
scope of
world.
the whole world,
I
right?
see.
You get the opinion. You get the idea that Krypton really is on a worldly battle scale, and I enjoyed that. So, all right.
Okay, well, Brandon, I'm sorry I forgot you were
That's
here.
That's okay.
And anyway,
it's true. He was looking at Skype. I noticed this.
Let's go ahead. I'm just used to having everybody in my machine and not actually with me. Let's go ahead and open this up now. I'm trying to decide where exactly we should start. Well, let's start at the beginning. So is it just me, or was Russell Crowe not an inspired choice for Jor-El?
Oh, it was great.
I thought it was really good, wasn't he?
And I appreciated the fact that he remained a character throughout.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of a neat thing, a neat juxtaposition between him and Jonathan Kent. Even after we know each of them is dead, they still have a presence throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Yes. I also like the fact that his program is clearly a program and not confused. Like, that's one of the things about the Donner films that I wouldn't say annoy, but sometimes would confuse me, because sometimes you'd get the feeling like, wait, is this him or is this the Crystal program? When Jor-El would speak to Superman. So I mean, I didn't get that problem at all with this portrayal.
I also like that it's a little smarter than at least the program in Superman 2, because it recognizes like people that are not Superman.
Yes. Like that sequence. I love the sequence where he's talking Lois through the corridors of that ship to get her out.
That was really cool.
That was awesome. I really did enjoy that sequence, because I remember thinking, okay, Superman's down, Lois is captured.
Yeah.
How the heck are they going to get out of this?
I like the fact that the machines, the big transport vessels recognize the different programs, and when Zod puts in his command codes, and he's like, basically, it's erasing Jor-El's command codes, like just taking over. I love that.
Yeah, one thing I thought was kind of, I don't know, for me this was unintentionally funny, and I felt bad about it, because you got that great line where Zod says, do you, well, you sound like Jor-El, do you feel pain like Jor-El?
That was good.
And
that was good.
And then Jor-El starts to disappear, and he's just looking at him like normal, and I went, oh, well, I guess he doesn't feel pain at all, okay.
I think it was dawning, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, I think it was dawning on the computer program just what was about to happen to said computer program.
Yeah, I just thought that was sort of funny, but then at the same time, it's not like it would have worked if you'd been like, no!
Yeah.
Did anyone think, like, the death of Jor-El wasn't that effective in any way?
Say that again.
Did anyone think that the death of Jor-El on Krypton wasn't that effective?
Oh, did you feel that way? I liked it.
It was kind of a way which, it showed Jor-El at first, he can take on Zod clearly by himself. And then as he watches Kal-El leave, he gets stabbed from behind, which is kind of honourable death. But I think on an emotional level, it didn't seem to work. I think because the pacing, it went really quickly, then suddenly his wife is sort of, admiring his outfit in the council sort of room, nearly, quite shortly afterwards. I just felt that it wasn't as strong as it should be. And I think because later on, when Zod defeats the program, he sort of, smashes it apart, his sort of hologram thing. I kind of felt like I was missing a scene where Superman was unaware that Jor-El is now gone. So I don't know. I suppose I felt like it didn't play off that well. But I mean, it wasn't a huge issue, but it just felt like the emotional core that should be there was kind of missing. And I think
what I liked about his death on Krypton was that he doesn't die with the planet. I like that Zod kills him.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, it doesn't die with the planet. But also, did anyone?
That's unusual. But I completely agree with you that there should have been a reaction from Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good point. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I also thought that it was fascinating that Jor-El does die before the planet and Laura dies without him.
Yeah.
Alone on the planet to just watch it all explode.
Yeah.
I thought that was that. I mean, the loneliness of that scene I thought was really engaging.
And I think loneliness is a big theme in the film. I really appreciated the credence that was given to Jor-El and Laura's having to send their baby off into space.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we seen this scene and it's never had the emotional weight, in my opinion, that scene has, where I really felt like I was watching a mother have to get rid of her infant son, and it was sad, and we're only 7, 8, 10 minutes into the movie, and I was immediately engaged in that in a way I've never been before.
It's especially poignant as having been, she's the first woman in centuries to have given a live birth. And so this is especially emotional for her, and you can really tell. It's just...
She doesn't even know anyone that's ever had a baby.
Right,
yeah, that's
exactly.
a good point.
None of them do.
Yeah.
And and Zod calls it sacrilege. I mean, straight up.
Oh, and I love that.
Yeah.
I almost wish that the religious themes had been played up a little bit more than they were. Besides the obvious Jesus allegories.
Yeah.
We'll talk about those. There's a few that it's not a huge problem, but I think some of them are kind of funny. But anyway, I'm sorry, Dan. I think you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say one of the things that I really liked about the Jor-El death scene that we were talking about earlier was that the change to Jor-El's character in here to make him sort of more warrior-like than he had been before, I think it's really smart to foreshadow and make more sense out of the path that he sets his son on. Because, before, he's just sort of an intellectual, and I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, well, would an intellectual necessarily send his only son to be, this brawler, superhero kind of guy on Earth and protect the people and stuff? I like that he has a little bit of a warrior in him. It makes a little bit more sense why he would put Clark on that sort of path when he gets to Earth, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then at the same time, I also really love that Zod is so military.
Yeah, I loved all the military stuff that they had in here, and the military sort of realizing that their way isn't the only way once Superman comes into our cynical world. It is really interesting.
In that book, General Zod, even when he tries to take over the planet and he gets to where he could take a new title of emperor or something, he still insists on calling himself general. He's so military, and he wants to be he wants to be the general that rules everything. And I felt like I was looking at that guy on screen. I don't know, man. I love that. They were adapting some of my favorite things, which is part of why I like it so much.
But let me ask you this: what if they had lifted the line and used it? What if they had used Kneel Before Zod in this movie? Would you have felt it less effective?
I think they could have gotten away with it.
Me too.
Before the movie came out and we heard, because I guess that got spilled and we knew that Kneel Before Zod would not be in the movie. I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. At the same time, this is such a different character. This guy's entirely different.
It is, but I think it would have been a nice homage.
I don't think you needed it though.
You could have put it in when
honest. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you take it. You can go ahead.
I'll be honest, I was actually very happy he didn't say it in the film. Because I feel like no matter how he would have sold that line, I think it would have came off as forced. He has to say the line from the old movies.
He would have taken this out.
I mean,
that's true.
I mean, look at what Returns did. I think Returns lifts so many lines from the first two films. It feels really forced.
Entire pages of dialogue.
I know. I remember
they could have put it in one bit when he does board the Kryptonian ship and he falls to his knees and spits out blood, and Zod could have slipped in the line "kneel before Zod."
Even if just once, yeah. But
I know awkward because he was already kneeling before.
I know.
Zod.
Just point out the obvious, you know.
oh look! You're kneeling before Zod right now.
See, I think I agree with both you and Manos and Captain Logan. The points that you guys made, we were talking about how he's such a different character, and I feel like it would have been forced, especially for how different a character he is. Because in Superman 2, General Zod is like this really arrogant, all about himself, revenge motive kind of guy, and the General Zod in here, he's definitely confident because he's good at what he does, but he's not like as much of a head case where I could buy him saying that. Like, he's just this desperate guy that wants to save his people.
Well, I love that. This Zod doesn't think he's better than everyone.
Right,
This
exactly.
Zod thinks that his race is better than every other race.
That's true.
That's his sole motivation. And it's also really interesting because he's bred to think that way.
His motivations are bred into him.
I thought he was a fascinating character, and I didn't have any problem understanding, as a villain, air quotes, I didn't have any problem understanding his motivations or where he's coming from, why he was doing what he was doing. He wasn't a super villain. He was a conqueror, and he was built to be that way. I really like that.
That's interesting. Something that we mentioned when we did the non-spoiler review was the fact that on Krypton, each of these guys was bred to be was it the Senate? What are they called there? I can't think of it.
The council.
The council. Okay, the council is all bred to be the best of their type of thinking. General Zod is bred to be the best of being the generals, and then you've got Jor-El, who's bred to be the best, and they're all fighting for what they truly, passionately believe in, and it's their undoing. I think that's a great play between each of those sets.
Oh no, I love that. I mean, the whole society collapses because it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, but it was designed to be exactly what it couldn't be, and I thought that was great.
I think that reminded me a little bit of John Byrne's, ironically titled, Man of Steel miniseries, where he pretty much suggested that too, that the society had just gotten so distant from its own humanity, and I guess trying to perfect itself, that it actually did kind of create its own ruin. And in a way, I don't know if that was influential on what the creators did with this film, but it did certainly remind me of that.
Manos, I think they had to have been looking at John Byrne's Man of Steel.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and Eric and I were talking about this the other day too. One of the things that Man of Steel did, the comic book, is it said that Krypton had lost their humanity, like you said, for so long and there was all this genetic engineering that you get to the point where innovation is bred out of everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To the point where they're not creating new technologies. There's no more improvement of society. We're not about improvement anymore. We think that we are already perfected. And that leads to, like I said, no innovation. I feel like visually that is encapsulated completely in this movie. They don't talk about it, but think about the fact that Jor-El is flying around on big winged creatures. That's crazy. I mean, they're not innovating anymore, and I think they might even be regressing technologically.
But they were, because they talked about the fact that they pulled all their people from their distant planets and came right back to Krypton. They pulled them away. They abandoned their stations.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that
station on Earth.
Part of their innovation, they used to fly around the galaxy, and they used to explore, and they quit doing that.
Yeah, they went from a universal civilization down to a worldly one, and it was their undoing.
Because they started conserving as much as they could, because they felt, I don't know, I guess however the society was collapsing all throughout the galaxy.
Yes.
Therefore, it drew in, and it literally drew into their core of their planet.
Yes. Metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no kidding. And they were so, I don't know, maybe just the society was just on such autopilot. You know, it didn't even occur to them what they were doing to themselves. We have to do this. We have to drill into our core to keep the society going.
Yeah. There's a line in there specifically that states about the population control. How they instituted this population control to try to contain the fact that they thought that they were spreading too far. And they wanted to kind of put a cap on it and bring it back. They thought they were losing what they had, when in reality that was like the beginning of the end.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Now that we're talking about the Kryptonian Empire, does anybody here think the fact that they discussed that they had developed life, they had explored and colonized worlds all over, do you think that leaves the possibility of us seeing Supergirl in this series?
I think I think we're gonna see Supergirl in this series.
I think that's probably gonna be the way in.
Partly because, I know I haven't read it, but I know the prequel comic used her.
Yeah, it doesn't, because it doesn't hint that, because in the crashed spaceship on Earth, that there's one pod that's empty, and that is supposed to imply that it could be Supergirl.
Oh, that's good.
That's interesting.
So I think it's almost inevitable that that's the next thing they do.
But if it's already empty, that means she's been there for 20,000 years, you know.
Oh.
I don't know. When she would have escaped.
Too, though, if we did the kind of Superman that doesn't age.
Yeah. That's a good point, yeah. But I don't think Superman could live 20,000 years.
Yes, he could, Oliver.
Well, look. If she was 20,000 years old, I'm sure she would not want to be called girl after all that time.
Yeah.
She's a woman.
I am older than your society. Call me a woman.
I'm older than I remember dinosaurs. No,
I helped them build the Great Pyramids.
You wouldn't remember dinosaurs, but that would be funny if she was that old.
When you guys were talking before about the Kryptonian society thing, I just wanted to mention one of the things that I really picked up on in the film with thematically with all of that Kryptonian society stuff and General Zod and the way he was thinking was a very optimistic and patriotic sort of American idealism film without being in your face about it, and I really liked that. I thought the Kryptonians were supposed to be socialists, where like they're making people and putting them in places, and they're not innovating because no one feels like they've earned their place. And then you get Superman here, and he's all about not handing things to people, but giving them the opportunity to improve.
And that's because he was bred completely differently.
Exactly.
He was given the ability to make his own choices.
Well, and also because he didn't have that programming, exactly. and then he was raised by Americans. Yeah.
And General Zod's symbol looks like a hammer and sickle. So.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't notice that.
Well, I think you're confusing communism with socialism, actually.
That's complete socialism is what I meant to say. Yeah, you're right.
But
no, it definitely it's definitely a message of hope by way of individuality, which is a classic science fiction idea.
Yeah, and it's like truth, justice, and the American way without being corny about it, which I really, really liked. Because I thought they were going to shy away from Superman being American with, how much more cynically people view American idealism and America in general now. I was really pleased with that.
Well, remember in Superman Returns, they avoided saying truth, justice, in the American way. They just said truth, justice, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And that actually made more people mad.
Yeah.
Quit reminding us.
Well, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun that they really they made something that I feel like is very Superman, but they managed to get away from all of those classic and obvious phrases. At no point does anyone say "look up in the sky." At no point does anyone say "faster than the speed of bullet." None of that's there.
No, not at all.
Well, what does that in the big scope of things? What does that really mean anymore? Because that used to actually mean something. He's faster than a speeding bullet. all this other stuff. And nowadays,
That's a good point. Yeah.
it just doesn't have the punch that it used to. And while that's great
wouldn't
for
say it like
classic
that,
old
yeah.
Superman, you'd have to say like he's faster than the space shuttle.
Well, one of the things.
Yeah, we don't really like measure speed versus locomotives anymore.
One thing somebody, yeah,
Faster than a rotary phone.
he's not quite as fast as a Phantom Drive. One thing I heard somebody complain about was, well, I liked Perry White, but he should have said Great Caesar's Ghost. No, he shouldn't have.
No. Cool.
What person in 2013 is going to say that? I don't care how old they are.
That's why I really liked
I'm
it.
going to bring it back.
I really liked that in Lois and Clark they had a Perry White that said Great Shades of Elvis, that they contemporized it a little bit in a different way with it. So you don't have to do that stuff just because it's Superman. It doesn't have to have the obvious nostalgia stuff to keep the core of what it is. And I think that it's a little bit more authentic if you don't do that.
Right.
So
it shows that
I
it's moving
that.
forward too, along with our sensibilities.
Let's get into the I guess the second act of the film, and I want to mention something. I guess I'm bringing up Eric a lot. He wanted to be here for this, and he wasn't able to make it, so he asked me to mention a couple things for him. This is an interesting complaint of his, given that a couple of you said that this was your favorite thing. Eric's only real gripe about the movie was that he felt like it was kind of missing a second act, and he felt like all of the flashbacks with Jonathan Kent that you guys were liking, where they were placed, he thought they actually. He thought. By the way, Brandon's got to get going. So everybody say bye to Brandon.
Bye to Brandon.
Bye, Brandon.
I'm not done quite
Bye,
yet.
Brandon.
Oh, he's not leaving quite. Okay, but anyway, something that Eric really complained about was that the second he thought there was a second act missing because you skip straight to Superman as the fisherman. Which, by the way, once again, Jesus allegory, and he,
I hadn't considered that one.
And the only thing that was missing was him working in a carpenter shop.
yeah, I know. I thought,
Oh dear.
but
He
anyway,
got baptized like John too in the ocean.
that's a good. Well, we'll talk about all the Jesus stuff because it's kind of fun. But anyway, he said that all of that stuff to him felt like it was actually supposed to be the middle of the movie, but they were too afraid of it looking like Donner Superman, so they just found places to cut all that up. What do you guys think of that?
Well, I'd say that it does have a second act. It's just told non-linearly. The fisherman stuff is the second act of the movie. It's just out of order.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, we get him as a fisherman before we see him as a kid, don't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, so, I mean, I definitely like the fact that they were splitting this up, because I don't think it would have worked nearly anywhere close to as well if they'd have just given us a progressive story starting from birth to the end of the movie.
Yeah, some people just weren't caring for the organization, where like they were trying to figure out ways to make those flashbacks to have a logic to where the flashbacks.
But they were totally
fell.
relevant for me.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Although after a while, I did get a little bit of a feeling that it was like, okay, every time he gets hit in the head, he's going to go back to his past.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that happens to me. I don't know about you guys.
Every time somebody kicks Manos in the face, he relives his childhood.
Yeah.
If those scenes were in order, think about how backloaded with action the last part of the movie would have been. It would have been like no action and then just like slam bam action fest for the last hour and a half. You know?
That's a great point. Hey, keep in mind, telling his origin in a non-linear fashion as the story progresses, I think eliminates the problem of this looking too much like the Donner films.
Right.
Because think about it.
I think the problem is I think a lot of people are expecting a superhero film to have a sort of familiar structure, and it's broken away from the norm, and it's I think sort of surprised people, and some people have liked it and some people don't like it. So I think what they've done is quite ballsy and quite different.
Well,
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
What I think is clever is they sort of use the model for Batman Begins, actually.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
Right.
But I think it's done in such a way where it doesn't feel like they're retreading the complete method. That probably comes from the fact that you use a different director, and a lot of the situations are different. So I think it hides that. But I mean, if you look at both Batman Begins and Man of Steel, they do use a lot of that.
That's actually the thing that Eric was complaining about, though. He said that it's the structure of Batman Begins, but it's trying so hard not to be straight up Batman Begins that it. And I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying what he said. That he said it would be like if Bruce Wayne goes and trains with Ducard, and then he comes back, and then immediately Ra's al Ghul attacks.
Well, I mean, it's just the fact that these are two different characters. So
that's what I think too, and I think that
that they're trying to keep.
Got to have that Kryptonian stuff at the core of everything in this particular version.
And I think the important thing is too, if you were to do that in Batman Begins, you'd get the Ra's al Ghul sort of all the scenes where him and Bruce establish more of their relationship outside of the training. You wouldn't have that. The context would be much different because Zod's main relationship with a character is Jor-El, and you get that already established. So the context in which that happens later on is better handled because you don't because Superman and General Zod are forming a relationship in that part of the film.
Oh, you're right. You need all that there.
Yeah.
Early.
And also just terms of character. Superman and Batman come from kind of different genres, really. I mean, Superman's more of like pulp science fiction, like Eric was talking about, and Batman comes from more mystery. So, obvious, we're not gonna. It's going to obvious. Ra's al Ghul is not going to come back in the second act as Ra's al Ghul and go, "Hey, I was just kidding. Let's get in a fight."
Zod's like, "You left me for dead and burned down my house."
Like 10 minutes ago.
Oh.
So you're obviously not going to have the same kind of relationship with Zod.
True.
Where should we go from here? So we get into the Arctic stuff, and I was really expecting to see a fortress.
Me too.
I was as well. Yeah. There was some. Because the amount of footage they've shown beforehand and sort of the stills and things on magazines, there was some indication, there was some sort of idea that may not be that literally be a fortress. It may be sort of a crashed ship. I presumed that, but I thought maybe later down the line there'll be some other fortress he may have created. But because
Oliver, how do you feel about the fact that pretty much all the Kryptonian technology is destroyed by the end of the film,
including his crystal?
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned by that because I thought once Zod has got rid of the sort of hologram version of Jor-El, and I thought maybe there's an idea that he will still be in that sort of USB device, the S, that it may still survive, but then it gets pushed through into the Phantom Zone or into that black hole and it's gone. But there could be an indication that could still return. Superman could still go somewhere with that in a sequel.
I think so.
But it's kind of sad in a way that everything's gone, and essentially he won't have a fortress. He'd have to have, I don't know what he'd have. It's very strange. It'd be interesting to see what they can do with it. But at this point, they've kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit.
Well, I think that's the advantage Supergirl could bring to the franchise.
Yeah.
She could reintroduce that technology to Earth.
Well, what about the fact that we know that that Jor-El teaches Lois Lane how to defeat Zod? We don't know how much he's taught her. We know at least he's taught her that much, but has he taught her anything more than that?
He doesn't spend much time with her. It's not like
he doesn't, but we don't get a clear indication of exactly.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
It's interesting.
Do you guys think it would have been cool to see Zor-El on the Krypton? Scenes and stuff. I would have appreciated
cool.
That would have been cool.
But I was just excited about Jack Zur. I was glad that they even had him there. So.
See, I don't know who that character is.
Ooh, that was Jack Zur. Fantastic.
In regards to the destruction of Krypton, did you feel that the first, obviously, the scenes during on Krypton, did you feel there was any sort of urgency to the impending destruction of the planet? Because to me, it felt like, the sort of the tension that was building up was from Zod's army attacking, or the battle that was going on. But the planet just sort of explodes out of the blue, even though they sort of are aware it's happening. But everyone's just like, yeah, whatever, and just carried on doing their normal routine.
Well, didn't the council not believe it was happening?
Yeah, they didn't believe. Yeah, but it was kind of I don't know. It just sort of you would think someone would have listened to Jor-El or someone may have said something, but they just suddenly out of the blue it just pops.
I think.
And again, the breeding problem.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so set in their ways because they were bred to be set in their ways and to not push control. And to think that their way is the way.
Oliver, I think that that's really the only way to explain how those morons would allow their planet to explode.
I think so. Because it was me and my friend were just so, just unsure about certain number of aspects of the destruction of Krypton. Because in the first film, you do get the impending threat of the planet's going to explode. But even though the council don't listen to Jor-El, he's told him it was going to go, I don't know, in a number of days. But Jor-El, as soon as the film starts, it's sort of, Jor-El said, we've got to escape, we've got to go. And they're sort of, stubborn in their ways. But,
I love that in being set in their ways, they try to stop Jor-El from doing the thing that would lead to the the preservation of their society. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think what they may have been going for there, too, is a cynical man would say that if humanity had a threat against them of that scale, that they wouldn't be able to compromise and unite with each other and conquer it. And, Jor-El's society wasn't able to do that, so he sends his son to Earth to inspire the humans to learn from his mistake.
You mean kind of like
the society's
carbon
mistake.
dioxide problem we've got going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Uniting
with the global warming situation. There's some people don't even believe it exists.
Well, now they're just to bring this into a factor of
Manos, if it wasn't for all that genetic engineering.
I know, God,
we into a factor.
Hindsight's 2020.
What they're talking about now isn't so much of dealing with the carbon dioxide problem, but dealing with ways to help us live with the problem, not fixing the problem, but live with the problem. Yeah. And I think they almost sort of address that with the Krypton.
Well, they actually do that with the Krypton. Well, and it's not really intrinsically there in this movie. You asked me, hey, why is there a black hole in the center of the planet?
Yeah, I wondered that. That was one of the problems I had, was they didn't do quite enough explanation for those who don't know background.
But here's the thing, what you gotta realize, Brandon, is that most people wouldn't know that background, because that's not in most versions.
I understand.
The whole black hole thing, that's straight out of Last Days of Krypton. I don't know what else has that.
Well, I mean, you're also talking about the story structure problem and the fact that this movie isn't about the destruction of Krypton. It's about Superman.
No.
Right.
So therefore, there's only so much we can really explore with this. If this was a Krypton film, then we could explore all these issues we're talking about, but they just don't have time.
That's true.
Yeah.
But isn't it nice, though, that we have enough about Krypton that we can have a discussion about Krypton? I thought that was really nice.
Well, we're not discussing much else, are we?
We haven't moved out of the first act.
Yeah, well, I've been trying, but then we always get back to it. Yeah. Can I mention, just to be irritating, I'd like to mention one more thing about the Kryptonian stuff before we move on.
Sure.
And that's how fascinating an idea it is to me that we've got something called a phantom drive.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started thinking about it, and again, it's not really explained what it is in the movie, but they give us just enough that I think I get what it's supposed to be. They mention a phantom drive, and we know that there's a phantom zone, and that Zod and his cronies get thrown into it. I think that the phantom zone is basically like subspace. I think
it is too. They gave it a proper explanation in this one, where in the original one it was just like you weren't really given an idea of what it was. In this, it does give an idea. It's like you're essentially in a massive black hole, aren't you?
Well, I think that but my point is, I think that that when you use the phantom drive and you're falling space, I think that their spaceships are actually going into the phantom zone before they come out into regular space.
They are. That's exactly what's happening. But the thing is that when you're trapped there, they can't get back.
They can't get
whereas
back.
Superman does get back because he's in a pod designed to come out of there.
Yeah, that's
brilliant. That's the difference.
So they're using old technology they've probably had for centuries in order to trap their criminals.
But one of the problems that you had, Jay, and I agree with you, they didn't properly explain this, was how does the destruction of Krypton bring them back from the Phantom Zone?
Would somebody explain that to me? Because they mentioned
I didn't
that,
get it
and
either.
I don't understand what that means.
I didn't get it either.
Possibly because
the power that drives this prison is sort of powered down. That was the implication I thought.
So it has to maintain power to keep them in the Phantom Zone, and once the power from the planet's gone or it gets destroyed, they're pulled out of the Phantom Zone. Is that what you're?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
I looked at it sort of like a hyperdrive from.
So let's think about that. What if somebody needs to be released from the Phantom Zone?
Let's assume the
it
machine
makes sense to have access to that.
That is true.
You know what it is? If that's the case, and I think they could have made it more explicit, but if that were the case, it's just like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You turn off the machine and then all the ghosts fly out. In fact, they're phantoms. It's exactly the same thing. They're ghosts and they've been put in a trap and then it's hilarious.
Well, you could make that case, because if that's the case, then the machine that puts them in the Phantom Zone is merely a doorway, and that when it's destroyed, it opens the door.
And then there's this jerk face guy named Walter Peck who walks in and tries to get ghosts.
I wouldn't shut that down. You'll turn off the laser containment system. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I'm with the EPA. I can do whatever the heck I want.
Hey, you do your job, Pencil Neck. Don't tell me how to do mine.
Yay, that's right. Whoa.
Dogs and cats living together.
Oh dear.
Anyway, what were we talking about? Okay, let's get past Krypton, shall we?
I think it's very telling that that's all we've been able to talk about so far, though. It's
Isn't it though? We've spent an hour on Krypton.
But that's great.
Yeah, I know. I was pretty excited about it. So, what else was in this movie? Oh, Kansas. So, they spend a lot of time in Kansas, and I thought it was really cool that Smallville was such a big part of this, and that they didn't spend the entire movie in Metropolis. I thought it was cool that we got some fights in Kansas.
Yes.
But also, and this is something Brandon and I talked about in our other review, Kansas actually looks like Kansas in this movie. I know, because I live here.
Yeah,
and I was really excited about that.
That's always a plus for me, being a Kansas person.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Manos.
Logan, I have a question. I've been thinking about I've been thinking about you since watching the film.
I'm flattered.
Since you live in Kansas, and watching this in a Kansas movie theater, I was just curious how this film played with the audience, particularly Superman's line at the end about, I'm from Kansas. That's about as American as you get.
Yeah, our audience responded to that. Our audience responded to him wearing a Royals t-shirt.
Uh-huh.
And I know this sounds stupid because they have these everywhere, but our audience also responded to IHOP.
Yeah.
I got one of those near me.
I got one of those.
Well, we got a million of those.
We got like 10 within a 10-mile radius. I could him out.
When I was in college, I worked at IHOP, and I was.
Oh, that's right.
And I really enjoyed seeing one get totally ripped to pieces.
That's right. I forgot that's how I met you.
Because I didn't really enjoy that job very much, so it was kind of fun to watch one get ripped to pieces. Sorry, what? Dan?
Hello?
Dan?
I was just saying.
Wakey.
That
Like in a Superman.
wow, I thought Dan was eating at IHOP or something, and it got... Anyway, what's up, Dan?
Just disappeared again.
Dan, are you having technical problems?
I don't think so.
Dude.
Okay, start talking.
So you're telling me that an IHOP is just a Superman's throwaway in Kansas? I mean, that was one of the many if you threw Superman anywhere, you would have hit one eventually.
Okay, here's the thing. You can put an IHOP or a Casey's General Store or a Pizza Hut in there, and it would be the same thing for Kansas audiences. I kid you not. Small towns have a Pizza Hut, a Casey's, and usually an IHOP. You can find one. Trust me on that.
Oh, wow.
Something to add.
And don't forget the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I don't know.
I have no idea what an IHOP is.
Wait, it's international. You should know about it.
Well, there isn't one in Cambridge. I don't think.
That's why they chose IHOP, because it thematically connects with Superman's international implications as a hero.
Oh, Dan, you're doing that thing again where you read too much into the film. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yes.
I actually have something to add.
This is my sister, Jennifer.
Hello.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hello. Can y'all see me?
They can't see. It's on a.
We're audio.
Okay,
anyway,
fine.
what's up?
Hello, audio. I am currently working for a director doing a film called The Blood of Me, which is about vampires and horribly awful. But he is friends with the person who wrote this, and he actually came down to Kansas and visited here. So that is probably why so much of it is so accurate, because he actually got to spend about a month here hanging out
Oh, wow.
with my friend. So that was cool.
And I never understood why those stupid people in Vancouver making Smallville couldn't have done that.
Right?
Because they went to New York to film Christopher Reeve. They couldn't have spent a week in Kansas one time.
You know it.
Yeah, Logan, none of the characters look like the characters from the comics. Why should Kansas look like Kansas?
Oh, that's a good point. And that's something I wanted to mention from this movie, too. Manos, wasn't it kind of neat to see a Pete Ross that looked just like comic book Pete Ross?
Yeah.
Stuff like that?
I read Mark Waid's review, and he had a funny line that young Pete Ross was played by a young Mark Waid. And I like the fact that he didn't become anything hugely important. He's just a guy. He didn't become vice president or something, like in Smallville.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen in this universe.
Yeah.
I don't think that Pete Ross is going to be vice president of anything. Is
Pete Ross a supervillain or something in the comics? I'm just not familiar with the name.
No, Pete Ross was Clark Kent's childhood best friend.
Okay.
It was if you look at the main early cast in Smallville in the TV show, everybody is comic book except for Chloe Sullivan. Interestingly, they did borrow a lot from Smallville in the movie, which I was quite surprised by. And Manos, I don't know if you caught this, but there is a hardware store or a mechanic shop or something called Sullivan's.
Oh yeah, I saw someone posted about Easter eggs in the film, and that was highlighted as one of them.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. That was neat. Also, by the way, I love that Emil Hamilton was in this movie.
Yeah.
And the spitting image of Emil Hamilton from the comic books. He has an assistant, and his assistant was the kid that played Emil Hamilton in Smallville. So it's Emil Hamilton hanging out with Emil Hamilton.
Oh.
I also like the fact that Lois Lane was played by a crypto freak.
And of course, Amy Adams got her start as a crypto freak.
Oh, and she was fantastic.
Can we talk about Lois for a while?
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea, Manos. Make it happen. Go ahead, Manos. Make it happen.
Okay. I am a big fan of Lois, and one of my favorite things about Superman is the relationship between Superman and Lois. And, of course, not been a big fan of the fact that they've been completely separated pretty well in the comics.
Right.
Because I really do think that Lois she's evolved over decades, and I feel it's unfortunate that her character, much like Superman by a lot of non-fans, is kind of stereotyped by, a Boy Scout do-getter who nobody can relate to, all the trash that people say about Superman. I think she's got it almost as bad, or maybe even a little worse, as this helpless, stupid character that needs to be saved every 5 seconds. She's progressed a long time ago, almost into a hero herself, as, being an investigative reporter. She can handle herself among humans pretty well. Yeah. She's almost like a detective hero herself.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that this film establishes and grounds the relationship immediately. And I love the fact that she knows who he is from second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that relationship between them in this movie. It really worked for me, and I thought it was a great way to start this out.
Yeah, everything at the Daily Planet is going to make so much more sense now that she knows. The glasses thing, I can buy that tricking people if no one else sees Superman up close besides Lois, and she knows. And it gives Clark Kent a reason and a clear motivation to be a crusading reporter. A guy from Kansas that's also an alien, isn't a guy that strikes me as someone that's going to be, looking for the truth and being a hard-hitting journalist and stuff. Lois will inspire that in him, and I find that to be really cool.
And I thought that you get to the end and you get to see him as Clark, and this was the most un-Superman-looking Clark Kent I think I've ever seen. I actually bought that disguise fooling people. I'm like, wow, he really doesn't look like the same person, even kind of.
Yeah.
And I love...
Oliver's laughing at me. You don't agree?
No, because me and my friends, after watching it, we kind of felt that the ending felt a little bit tacked on in a way. It's kind of felt like they've got to try and cram everything at the last minute. Right, we've got to show him Clark Kent, get him in there. And then there was no change in his demeanour. No, I wasn't expecting to come in and be, hi, it's bumbling Clark Kent. It was just he put on his sort of George Reeves style Clark Kent glasses, and just comes in just normal and just says, hi, this is Clark Kent. And it wasn't even given like 2 minutes to be Clark Kent.
Well, but that's kind of, Oliver, but that's the thing. I think that somewhat, I think the fact that he was not on screen for very long kind of contradicts what you're saying, because we didn't really see how he acts as Clark Kent.
Right.
He's just there, and he's got this giant smile on his face, while Superman always looks really brooding. I'm not sure about that.
And, let's see.
I would have thought he would have changed maybe something different with his hair, just to create some sort of change in his image.
Okay, see, I thought his hair was different, too. Maybe I'm crazy.
So, Oliver, what did you think of this Lois Lane?
I thought she was very good. I mean, it portrayed her as a smart, intelligent woman who, Lois is supposed to be one of the best reporters, and you see that in the film. And she's not played for laughs, she has scenes where she's generally a funny character, she's got a good sense of humour. And I like the idea, I mean, some fans will be upset that she sort of finds out he's, Clark Kent, Superman very early on. But it's something new, it's something different, and the whole idea, everyone always complained about glasses on, to fool everyone. But, there was, that's what Christopher Reeve introduced, had something different. You could see a difference between Clark and Superman. But now it's become sort of a cliche joke. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I mean, I was absolutely satisfied with the changes they'd made and Lois, and the interpretation of Lois. I thought, I had no complaint at all.
It's a very progressive view of Lois Lane, I think.
I think for some people, some of that looks like just subversive change for the sake of itself, and it's not to me at all. So the two big things are Lois finds out about Lois knows who Superman is from the beginning, and in fact knows that before she even knows Clark, really, and then B, that Clark kills a person. Or that Superman kills a person. And those are the two things that I think some people are saying, oh, well, it's not Superman anymore because you change these two big, giant things Superman doesn't do. I think for the sake of the narrative, just for me personally, both of those things are very credible and work within the internal logic of the film that we're given. Having said that, I also understand those complaints from people. I also understand that this is not some people's Superman. In the exact same way that Nolan's Batman is not everybody's Batman. And I think that it's important to keep in mind that these characters have been around for 75 years. This is Superman's 75th anniversary. There are a lot of different ways to do this Superman. And the one thing I do think about this movie is about why it's polarizing is I don't think this is a good Superman movie to start with. I think this is like an alternate history kind of Superman. I think to appreciate a lot of what happens in this movie, you have to already know some Superman. I think
you do, yeah. I think you're right there.
I don't know, the whole Superman killing thing really conflicts me, because like you said, I think it works well within the internal logic in the film. They foreshadow it, and they talk about a warrior's death and all that sort of thing throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
But one of the things I always loved about Superman as a fantasy is that usually in the real world, for like big sweeping changes to happen, a lot of people are going to have to suffer. Just generally, like throughout history, most of the time there's big changes in the world, people at large suffer, and then at the end there's like peacetime, that sort of thing. So it's a bit more of a realistic idea for Superman to be at least okay with killing people in some instances and not let his morals get in the way. Or maybe they'll use this as a justification for him never killing again. I don't know, but
that's what I think they do.
That's what I think as well. Yeah.
I always liked Superman because he shows us that as humans, we don't have to kill each other to change the world. And he does that here, and I don't know, I don't really like that.
Wow. Okay. What about you guys? Did that bother you just on the principle of the thing? Was it like on principle, should Superman never ever kill? Or is this territory we should not cover? Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, Superman killing Zod, I mean, that's terrible. That never would have happened unless you count Superman 2 in the comics. But other than that, he would never kill Zod.
I love that you said that. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, how come no one is talking about the fact that he kills Zod in the original series?
Oliver, answer that.
And it's actually worse because he depowered Zod, and he was helpless, and he kills him. And he's kind of glib about it.
Well, in the day,
Lois kills Ursa. I mean, and they're cool. This film, I think, I do agree with Dan that I wish like there would have been zero alternatives for him. There is the possibility he could have flown him out or covered his eyes, but I do understand what they were doing, and I'm able to be cool with it because they did a lot. I mean, Zod is about to kill the father of another family trying to protect them. And also at the end, after that, Superman isn't glib or smiling. Hey, Lois, everything's cool. He's upset about it. This was not something he wanted to do, and it really tore into him that he felt like he had to kill Zod at this point.
It also tore into him because he had to destroy the last remaining Kryptonian besides himself.
That he knows of.
Which makes me hope that the next film is called Last Son of Krypton. I think that would just be fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Would be a cool.
That's neither here nor there, but I think the next film should actually deal with that and should be Superman having to deal with the fact that he destroyed the remains of his planet and that he's call it Last Son of Krypton. Anyway, Oliver.
So it just amazes me. Everyone goes, "Oh my God, Superman killed him." It's like,
just
watch some other movies.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, it's annoying, and this is the reason I was hoping that Oliver would mention this. That only happened because of editing, because there's an ending that only got put on the TV version of Superman 2 where they're all still alive at the end, and Superman knew that he was just dropping them down like a chute thing.
Yeah, because they get arrested at the end, and it's very corny in a way where they shot it, but they get arrested, and so does Lex Luthor. They get sent away to prison. So that was done for Richard Donner's version. So Richard Donner was never going to kill them. And in the Lester one, probably down to pacing or to try and take credit for the amount of footage, had to trim certain things. So they probably cut it for him to die anyway. And we thought, well, I think the audience probably wanted them to die. But for me, in my opinion of, Zod being killed, I mean, my friend who's a huge Superman comic fan, he was depressed after watching the movie. He said it's a very good movie, but not a good Superman movie. And to me, I mean, at the time, I thought the scene was very powerful, and you guys, expressed your feelings, and it worked within the context of the story. But it's written that way for him to kill them. And he could have, when the other characters got pushed into the Phantom Zone, near the end of the movie, Zod could have done as well, and they could have trimmed one action scene, and maybe people would have complained less about too much action. But I think, in justification that he's maybe, because he's killed Zod, that he will never kill again. And that's what I kind of thought would happen, later on if they do that.
That's what I think. And also, don't forget, this scene connects with the death of Jonathan Kent.
Yeah, exactly. And also, Zod killed Jor-El, so, Superman is more motivated to kill him. But, Superman has killed in the comics, and my friend disagreed, saying he never killed, but he has killed. He's even killed Kryptonians in the comics. But it's just a different series of comics. And if you've read a particular series, and Superman never killed, then you're going to be upset. But if you read, all the different versions, then you can justify, Superman killing.
Yeah, I like seeing a Superman here because I actually think that this is a little less cynical in a way, forgetting all the collateral damage, because again, it does seem a little bit strange that he's flying around not really paying attention to all the people that are probably dying in those buildings, but then there's 3 people right here, and he's going to kill Zod to make sure they don't die. Obviously, the filmmakers are not thinking about that, and maybe they ought to be, but that's neither here nor there. I like this a lot better than the Superman in the comics that goes so far with his own personal morality to say, I'm never going to kill, that he will allow so many horrible things to happen. I mean, like I know we get this with Batman and the Joker all the time, but there's this thing with there's this story with Doomsday where he just goes to an absurd level to make sure that he never kills, that Doomsday never dies, and I won't go into detail here, but it's kind of, it comes off as kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I sort of like that we've got a Superman here that's sort of forced into a situation where he has no choice. And you can argue whether or not the situation really is that way, but just on paper, the idea of, okay, Superman's in a situation where you can either let those people die or let Zod die. Which one which one is the lesser of two evils? Which of them would make us less angry with Superman? If they'd gone the other way and let those people die, I think we would all be mortified.
Oh, of course. And it's also, you're also seeing something that's different. You know, to an audience, you're seeing Superman being put in a new scenario. And
I think the people that are angry about it, I think they should be, and this is a taste thing. And a lot of what people like in this movie is a taste thing.
Yeah.
And that's fair. If you don't like that Superman kills in this movie, I think it makes more sense. I think what people are really angry about, but they're not articulating it, is that they don't like that Goyer put Superman in that position. It's the situation that you should be upset about, and it should be, okay, well, I just don't want Superman to ever be in that situation. Me personally, I like that he was forced in that situation. I think he would be at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the things it reminded me of was, they did actually, Greg Rucka did something similar with Wonder Woman, actually, where he put her in a situation where Maxwell Lord took over Superman's mind.
Oh, yeah.
And he had control of him. And after this huge fight between mind-controlled Superman and Wonder Woman, she eventually snared Maxwell Lord in her magic lasso, and you know, she's telling him, like, let him go, and he goes, I already have him. There's no letting go. And there's a bit of dialogue of her trying to figure out how to separate them. And she just flat out asks him, how can I sever the tide? How can I sever the line between you and Superman? And he goes, you have to kill me. And then she breaks his neck and kills him.
Sure.
And that created a huge, that was kind of polarizing among comic fans. About, no, she would never kill. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. Like, sometimes life isn't that charitable, where you're constantly given outs as far as your options. Or
but I don't know.
Or sometimes
the thing I've always liked about Superman.
Sometimes I see in some stories where someone else kills the bad guy and our hero's hands are not sullied. Well, yeah, that's nice, but life doesn't work always that way. And the fact there's a difference to me between killing like the most evil guy ever from killing a family and the rest of the world, and what Punisher does, who flat out just seeks out and murders people. To confuse those two, I think is sadly mistaken.
Dan, why is it still a problem for you?
It's still a problem for me, I think, because I think you're right, Manos. Real life isn't like that. You're not always going to have an out, but the thing I like about Superman is that he always tries to find an out, and I don't think that he, like, because of the scene, the way it played, I was just thinking of other outs he had in my head, so I was thinking, like, he's just making this choice in the moment, maybe, I don't know. And then the way the scene sort of plays pace-wise sort of bothered me too, because it's like, we have him yell and look sad, and then, after he's like, destroyed the entire city, thousands of people are probably dead, including Zod, and then it just cuts to the city completely rebuilt, and he's like, hey, I'm Clark Kent, everything's cool.
Now
I didn't feel like they dealt with it, really. Like, we saw Superman yell and be sad, but that's it.
Well, we don't know how much time passed, and obviously probably a whole lot of time passed. But
I guess.
You're right. He probably, but my point is, he probably dealt with it, and we didn't have time to see him dealing with it.
But
I mean, like,
to have seen
that's actually,
I would too.
That's actually one of my problems with the story structure and the pacing, actually, is the fact that there really should have been a scene in between the killing Zod scene and then the scene with the two soldiers in the field with the probe.
Yeah, because he drops a satellite right in front of them, and I was just like, wow, I'm really glad that Superman can mathematically calculate where he has to drop that so that they won't run into it or it won't hit them, especially right after he just saved 3 people by killing a supervillain.
And that satellite was cool because it had the Wayne Enterprises logo on it.
It did.
Yeah.
And how dare I not have mentioned that on our video the other day, because I've been inundated with comments, Cap, did you not see it? It was there! And I was like, okay, yes, I noticed it, I just didn't say anything.
Okay. That's one thing you didn't say. You should have seen.
I'm
How dare
unsubscribing.
you? Not mention every single thing that's in the movie.
I've got a question here. It just occurred to me while I've been listening here. Okay, so we know that Lois knows who Superman is. How can you have epic battles in Superman's hometown and then at his home residence and the rest of the world not figure out that is Superman?
Because it was a really small town and there was hardly anybody there.
I realize it's Smallville, Kansas, but at the same
well,
time...
you notice there wasn't hardly anybody around during
There
those
wasn't,
scenes.
but you've got the military that is dealing with this in Smallville.
I'm with you.
So there's at least a little break there. From
It's hard to
my
imagine he could still use his real name.
Right.
I always felt that way in Smallville too, especially considering that in that show, Smallville
his
and
history-
Metropolis are like 3 hours away from each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here it was a problem, but I spent 10 years watching it be a way
Right.
worse problem.
Okay, I get you. So this is less of a problem. But his history is now entirely traceable to me anyway. Like what Lois did is now
Wow, his
easy for
history is
anyone.
traceable to Brandon? Amazing.
Sorry. Anyway, so
Was
that
Metropolis ever named in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, sorry.
Did anyone actually like how they delivered the name of Superman into the film?
No, I didn't.
I quite like that. I quite like how they introduced his name.
Can I say what I didn't like about it? I like how Lois introduces it in. What I don't like is that people are calling him that later. I don't know how the heck they ever came up with that name. I don't know how they found out about that. That's what Lois called him. Like Lois comes up with the name. It seems like somebody else comes up with it independently from Lois.
They would have had
because
to
somebody goes Superman. That's what they're calling him now. And this was before Lois had a chance to talk to him. That's what I didn't like about it. I don't understand that.
Third rage.
I'm just happy. He was named Superman. If this film had gone the entire film and not called him Superman, I would have given this one less star.
Yeah.
I would have been really irritated.
And I do feel like Smallville maybe had a little too much of an influence on it that way, where I don't know why we have this, we've got to avoid calling superheroes their names thing these days. I don't get it.
It's like their lame attempt to act grown up and like modern. It's like, no, you're just being stupid and pretentious.
I know, I can't wait for the Amazon series to come out. That's going to be great.
I don't even know they're doing one, to be honest. I had no clue.
Wow. Okay, so I really enjoyed that double reaction. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. That's the only thing.
Arrow,
That's the only thing I didn't like about that. Was just I didn't understand how somebody came up with Superman independently. But that's it. I was glad it was there.
Did anyone actually like the music throughout the film? You know, did they expect the theme tune to be, you know, when he's doing something heroic, but not just lumped in at the end credits?
I thought it was good. I thought it fit the material. I don't think it's memorable like the Batman Begins score is.
Or the original Superman theme song by Jonathan Williams.
It's kind of weird because Hans Zimmer's music is very much, it works within the confines of the movie, but you can't really take it away sometimes and listen to it by itself. It doesn't work. His music doesn't work in a way which John Williams' music, where you can listen to it and you can picture the movie in your head by the music. But Hans Zimmer's, you can't do that really. It's just interesting. It's mostly just like repetitive beats throughout the film. But I was disappointed that the theme, because me and my friend thought, you know, the theme tune that was in the trailer was played during the end credits, but it would have been nice to have a montage scene at the end where he is Superman and you see him and you have the music playing where he's sort of flying around Metropolis.
And he's like saving cats out of trees.
Yes, just doing something Superman-ish near the end, you know, instead of being...
He's eating at IHOP. And
getting his gas at 7-Eleven.
Yeah. Or flying over the earth.
Just attending a Royals baseball game.
That would have been fun.
Actually, come to think of it, that would have been pretty boss.
He wouldn't have been like something like the end of Superman 2, where he's holding the flag, but not literally holding the flag, but having him just being Superman on screen with the music, and not just be like, oh, it's it's at the end of the credits again, you know. It's like, oh,
he's singing the national anthem.
Yeah, I want Superman wrapped in the American flag with the eagle on his arm.
I see what you're saying, Oliver. Yeah, I wasn't. I was underwhelmed by the soundtrack. I thought it was fine within the context of the film. But I found the Batman Begins throughout the Nolan Batman trilogy. That soundtrack. I understand why you say that Zimmer stuff's not listenable outside of it. I say that having just listened to the Batman Begins soundtrack yesterday while working. I always found that to be really memorable, and the music was a lot of what made the ambiance of that movie make such an impression on me. And if you look at a lot of movies that were made in the mid to late 2000s, right after Batman Begins, people were aping that soundtrack all over the place. This felt a little generic in comparison.
I agree, and sorry.
No, Dan, you go.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say I think Hans Zimmer's style is just more suited to Batman because he's a little bit more low key, whereas John Williams, like, every theme he makes is big and loud and bombastic, which is what Superman is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think stylistically it wasn't as good of a matchup.
Yeah.
I think the theme tune itself, I mean, it's very good. I mean, it's the best I think we could have got, I think. But, I mean, it did seem like a sort of very generic sort of choice. I'll just go with Zimmer anyway. Because there's loads of other talented composers out there who could have done something very special. And something, you know, maybe it could have even topped John Williams, who knows? But I mean, I think it's the best what we got, I think. And it's never bad, it's not a bad thing at all. But I think, yeah, I mean, in terms of Batman Begins, I mean, I wouldn't say Batman Begins is a bad soundtrack at all. I really like it. Because, you know, Logan was listening to it the other day by, you know, the whole score. But I think Man of Steel, I mean, I've heard the score, like the whole soundtrack, and it's not as, you know, it doesn't grab your attention as much as his previous work.
Yeah. I was surprised that they picked Zimmer. Brandon's got to go.
Yeah, I'm out now. My sister had to leave a little bit ago, but I'm meeting up with her, so I'll see you guys.
Take care, Brandon.
Have a good one.
I was a little surprised Zimmer got picked, actually, Oliver, because usually directors famously seem to choose the people that make their scores.
They do, because the guy that was going to be on it, I think, did Watchmen, and you know, 300 and Dawn of the Dead. So I think he just sort of got. I think maybe down to studio pressure said no, we want Zimmer maybe, or Nolan.
That's too bad. Who did the scores for those? I don't remember.
Oh God.
I don't know its name.
Wasn't it? Oh, I can't ring a bell. It doesn't ring a bell.
Watchmen's score is fantastic.
Yeah.
When it actually gets a score and it's not popular music, but.
Yeah.
I think Zimmer was just a marketing choice. You know, he came with Nolan. Like, Nolan's producing, Zimmer's doing the score. I think Zimmer is better suited to Batman because his music is more personal. I think.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Where Williams' score was more epic and classic. The problem Zimmer had, and here's the thing. I like the music Zimmer came up with this. I actually was listening to it on YouTube the other day when I was writing. Yeah. And I like it. It's just not as memorable, you're right. And it's not as epic. It's nice war drum stuff for action.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but it just doesn't strike me as anything like, you know, classic. When you see a picture of this Superman, you're not going to go bum 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 bum.
There is a good sense of hope to the theme, but the theme itself is only like 2 minutes max. You know, that big epic theme where John Williams, you've got 5 minutes of his epic march at the beginning. But most of it is just drums and build up, and suddenly you hear the theme. It's only like 2 minutes long, and it sort of, you know, disperses and, you know, goes quiet again. So carry on.
Oh, okay. I think he probably had the biggest challenge in this film, as far as, you know, creatively compared to the original series of films, because, I mean, think of it. Let's say there's a new remake of Jaws, or the new Star Wars films have to come up with a new theme song, a new score. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a Jaws movie without dun 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 dun?
Oh, exactly. I mean, Zimmer, you know, he had immense pressure, and he has been public about it. He didn't want to do it at first, and he still says, you know, John Williams is still one of the best composers around, and that is one of his best scores.
Yeah, and that score is like, I mean, it's iconic. I mean, you see pictures of Superman that have nothing to do with the Donner movies, and you think of that music. So he had the biggest challenge, and I think he does well. I am left to wonder, who else could have, done this. You mentioned the composer that works with Zack Snyder normally, or Howard Shore. I'd be interested.
Yeah, Howard Shore. Yeah, he would have done, I think, a spectacular job because I think he's the only composer the last 20 years to come up with memorable themes. Lord of the Rings has every character has a theme, and you can recognise and you can hum it, and you know it instantly when they play it. So it is the next progression. I think he would have been an ideal choice, but he's probably too busy just doing the Hobbit trilogy at the moment. So.
Well, that is the longest anybody has ever talked about a soundtrack on our channel.
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault.
No, not at all.
That's great.
I think that's great. Anyway, what have we not covered yet, folks?
Zack Snyder.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Oh, me? Okay, good.
Yes. Well, you started it.
I thought Zack Snyder was a really good choice because I think, on one hand, I know Christopher Nolan just wasn't in the mood to do another franchise superhero movie series, and two, I think Christopher Nolan realized that Superman is not his guy. So I think he took a step back wisely. What's interesting is since he co-wrote the story and he produced this film, I think it's really interesting to look at Zack Snyder's film, and it looks and feels a lot like a Nolan movie, the way it's directed.
I think so too.
And it doesn't feel that much like 300 or Watchmen, actually.
It's kind of like, with Sam Raimi, where his older films all had a distinctive style. If you watch Spider-Man 2, even though there's little elements of Sam Raimi in it, it feels more like he's being more professional in a way, in composing his shots more epic and grand, And with this, it sort of deviates from Snyder's usual style of filmmaking. But you can see it in the action that is pure Snyder.
Yeah. And I think he was a great choice. Snyder is American, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think that also helped the fact that this was seen through an American director's eyes. I also think
very good point.
Yeah, I think he has some advantages that Nolan really wouldn't be able to bring to the table, like that just simple, nationality, and also the fact that I think he directs action better than Nolan.
Yes, he does, yeah.
I think he handles, even though Nolan co-wrote the story, I think Zack Snyder handles female characters better than Nolan does in his films. Because, Lois really did feel integral to the plot. Whereas, even when they are integral to the plot, they don't feel like they're integral to the plot in a Nolan film, if that makes any sense.
Well, I'm going to go this far, Manos. I wonder if that wasn't Goyer kind of growing up a little bit.
Possibly. Well, Goyer co-wrote Batman Begins, and, like it or not, Rachel Dawes does have a better presence in that movie.
No, yeah, she does.
Were you guys surprised by the lack of slow motion in the movie?
Yes.
That's one of the things that, going in, I heard people talk about, be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see the slow motion Superman movie," and I'm gonna hate it.
Yeah. There was none. There's no slow motion.
Yeah, I think he was probably really self-conscious about it.
I think he probably could have done with some slow motion, actually.
I agree. Actually,
put a little bit of it in. But I also was really kind of okay with the fact that there wasn't any because, again, and I'm comparing these a lot, but I don't know how not to. Boy, that was one of the most irritating things about Smallville.
Every episode, they whack that button and press a slow motion button.
That's one of the things counting Crypt Freaks is Clark and Bullet time.
That's bad.
I always considered that almost Smallville's use of slow motion. Always reminded me of the $6 Million Man show.
Wow, that might have been better. Like Clark chucks a bowling ball and you hear
because that's all they did in TV shows. They also did that in the Hulk and Wonder Woman when they would jump or do something spectacular. They would do it in slow motion.
A lot of time I felt like it was just there to kind of pad it out and fill some time.
Yeah, because they take out the slow motion. The episodes would be 10 minutes long.
I'd like to mention mention a couple things that just made me giddy as a comic book fan. This movie was what I really wanted in that it finally was comic book Superman, and I know we've talked about that. It
was, yeah.
And they borrowed from a lot of different source materials. Manos, I don't know if you've read Earth 1, but there was a lot of Earth 1 in this, and that came out like a month before they started making it.
I did read Earth 1, yeah.
But there was a lot of that in there, and I thought that was kind of, that was really good. That was really nice, because Earth 1 does the same thing where he kind of becomes Superman before he's Clark Kent at the planet.
Make an argument that that's out of Birthright.
See, I haven't read Birthright. I guess I should.
He does a lot of that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, fair enough then.
Birthright is better than Year One.
But also,
Earth 1, whatever the heck it's called.
Tonally, I just don't like to put Earth 1 in there. But anyway, there was a lot of 90s Superman stuff, and I want to mention a few things because nobody else that I've heard is really talking about it, and it's probably just me, but I get excited about 90s Superman because the thing is, Oliver, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but Superman had to die before I cared.
Oh, right, I see. Oh, okay, yeah.
I was a huge Death of Superman fan, and there were a few Death of Superman things in here that made me excited. First of all, I think that doing Death of Superman in this continuity is like the best possible continuity for it, because you've got all these self-sacrifice kinds of themes, and he saw both of his fathers sacrifice themselves, one of them twice.
Yeah.
And also, I just feel like it's moody, and it's the right universe for it. So what I would love to see, and this is just wishful thinking from me, I'd love to see a trilogy, because everything's got to be a trilogy these days.
It will be.
Just assume it's going to be a trilogy. I'd love to see a trilogy where in the third movie we get Doomsday and Superman gets killed and then he stays dead. I would personally.
Oh, I think you may be right there. They may actually do that,
I can see the posters now with that symbol bleeding. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome. I'd love to see that. But and even if it wasn't Doomsday, you could even do it some other way.
Nuclear Man. It's gonna be Nuclear Man.
Yeah, Nuclear Man. Superman. But the other reason I'm saying that is because since we didn't have kryptonite or anything in this movie, we get to see a Superman that gets to sometimes physically be vulnerable without kryptonite. So we know that there are things.
Yeah, that was good. I really like that.
And a lot of it, that aren't kryptonite, and a lot of people in the 90s had problems with Death of Superman because they thought that invulnerability was one of his powers, just straight up invulnerability.
Yeah.
They can kill him unless kryptonite is involved. So we've got a universe here where that's all possible. I love the black costumes. That's straight out of Death of Superman.
Yes, that's right. That's
really excited me. And Zod's got a black cape. That was so cool.
That was cool, yeah. And when he sort of went into all the skulls, we saw the clip in the trailer, but it's in the context of the scene, it was really powerful. I really liked that.
I agree with you. That was really powerful. Another thing that I might be stretching on this, I'm not sure, because again, I haven't heard anybody else talk about it. There's a soldier who has a code name in this named Guardian, and we hear him called that over and over and over again. Did you pick up on that, Dan?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't. I don't recall him at all.
When you and I, well, he was the guy running point. I think he was in a helicopter a lot. He was the guy running point on all the aerial assaults, and they kept calling him Guardian.
Oh.
And Dan, do you remember when we reviewed Death of Superman?
It's Guardian's in that, isn't he? He's in Death of Superman.
Yeah, Guardian is the guy who protects Cadmus, and I really wonder if that's not the same character.
Oh, interesting.
That's interesting.
Good. That's quite interesting. Yeah.
Again, I don't think it's stretching because why would you call him that 18 times like that? I mean, they kept calling him.
It's plainly obviously him then, isn't it?
That was a throw for me. I was like, oh, they're trying to get me because they got Guardian in this movie. I was waiting to see freaking Bibbo show up, man.
I was surprised that one of those military guys wasn't Metallo.
Oh, that would have been cool too, wouldn't it? Yeah,
I was expecting that. I was expecting one of those soldiers, especially the guy with the gray hair.
Yeah.
The Corbin, actually.
I've heard some complaints that there's too much military in this movie. Do you guys agree with that?
No.
No.
I would like the military to be around if there's an alien invasion.
Well, Manos, in the real world, I especially agree with you. I think I would also like the military to be around if there's an.
But the military in the film are a bit stupid because they end up just trying to shoot the character, the Kryptonians, constantly. It's like, you think you'd try once, okay, right, the bullets didn't work, I think I'll stop. Oh, no, I'll pull a knife out. It's like, it's like throwing their shoes at them,
I mean,
I'm thinking Cadmus is probably not a bad idea, especially since you mentioned Guardian, which I didn't even catch Guardian. But this definitely
It's
changes the
only
world.
one.
And even though the government is obviously going to have a pretty good relationship with Superman, they've got to step up because now the world is different. Now things can invade them that they have no power against.
Oh,
I mean,
you're
as you
right.
mentioned,
I
all they
bet
can do is shoot. That's all they have.
I'm with you. I bet you $100 Cadmus is in the next movie after you said that. Yeah.
Because, like, if I was running the government and we survived this attack, first on the agenda is coming up with new weapons.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised if I know, it's possible that sample of blood that the Kryptonian scientist took from him was probably destroyed. But I wouldn't be surprised if any of that was recovered. We'd be seeing Brainiac or Superboy.
You know the Kryptonian ship that was obviously in the film. I know it crashed because Zod steals it, and it crashes. Was it destroyed when they got sucked into the Phantom Zone, or was it still there?
I'm fuzzy on that.
Yeah.
We could get Bizarro from that blood sample as well.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Superboy.
Good point.
Yeah, I think Superboy, because the thing is, you got Cadmus, and if you do, if they do Cadmus, obviously that's where Superboy came from. He's a clone of Superman.
Yeah.
And then if you brought Supergirl in, it would kind of make sense to do both at the same time.
See, the Nolan-esque twist at the end of the second movie is that Perry White's real name is John Henry Irons, and he becomes Steel.
I'd love to see John Henry Irons in this universe too. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, you mentioned Perry White. I guess we do need to mention the thing that a lot of people are irritated about, and that is Jenny, who everybody thought was supposed to be Jenny Olsen, but she's never called that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Okay, so here's the thing. We've got no Jimmy Olsen in this movie. We've got this girl named Jenny. I don't notice even her presence at all in the film until she's suddenly under a bunch of rubble, and I'm supposed to...
She's pretty much wasted in the movie. She doesn't really have much... She's just thrown in, and...
she's not spunky. She's got no character. I'm not invested. And then you get to the credits, and she's listed just as Jenny, and she's really far down in the credits.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that we're not going to have a Jimmy Olsen in this universe.
Yeah.
There might be something in the sequel.
I remember watching the film and seeing just her name listed as Jenny. I remember thinking, well, that was much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
Like, all that fan rage of how dare they change Jimmy Olsen to a girl. Like, well, I guess that was nothing. You just make a case that Jimmy Olsen just hasn't shown up to the Daily Planet yet, and Jenny is Jenny. I don't know, or maybe Jenny's related. They may
have shot more scenes with Jenny, and sort of maybe
that's what I'm thinking.
Maybe sort of the backlash. Maybe they went, okay, we'll sort of cut her out, and then remove the surname in the end credits. Just call her Jenny, so no one's gonna.
Or maybe it's just, or maybe those scenes just didn't fit into the film.
Yeah, true.
I think that's probably more likely.
I'd like to know just how much got cut out, because as I was joking at the beginning, this movie is exactly the same length as Donner's film.
Yep.
It's 143 minutes. That had to have been intentional.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And that's kind of fun, especially because maybe they're making a statement with that. Look, we made a film of the exact same length, and it's nothing like the other movie. And that's kind of fun. At the same time, how much did they have to cut out to get down to that? And then people are still complaining it's too long.
I think they've cut a lot out. I think it's going to end up being like a 3.5 hour cut. Like Watchmen, it was stupidly long.
What I'm excited about, and this is nothing against Nolan, but I'm excited that Snyder directed this because Snyder is willing to put out director cuts.
Yes. I wouldn't mind
Nolan,
seeing it a longer
that's
one.
not something Nolan does, but Snyder, there are 3 cuts of Watchmen, and I think it's possible we'll get a second cut.
If there's more of Krypton, then I'm happy.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I kind of agree with you guys on the Jenny thing. I think there was stuff missing, because like at the end of the movie, they kind of act like she's a character when the guy from House of Cards asks her out to go to the baseball game after Lois rejects him.
By the way, that guy is in everything right now.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh my God, the guy from House of Cards, that bald guy that's with them, who like we've never seen before, but suddenly he's kind of in their posse, whoever that is. Well, I just saw him in Now You See Me the week before the 2 movies. I've seen
that guy.
In the movie theater. He's in them. He's in everything now. He's a great actor, though.
Yeah, he's great. And I can't really remember because she was so insignificant, but did that Jenny character even have red hair at all?
No, she had kind of dark hair.
Yeah, she had
Entirely
like a dark brownish hair.
Yeah.
I don't think she's related to Jimmy Olsen.
No, not at all, not at all.
But anyway, I just thought we should probably bring that up. There was a theory Eric had that he wanted me to run by you guys because he was upset he couldn't be here, or not a theory, but just a silly idea he had. He thought that perhaps, because Zod's battlesuit looks a little bit like Lex's battlesuit.
It does, yeah.
And he thought maybe Lex Luthor will find a way to adopt that technology and create his battlesuit out of it.
Because the scenes where, when they're terraforming and you've got them on other planets in those spacesuits, they reminded me of Lex Luthor's sort of green body outfit he wears. In a way. Similar design.
I saw he's not the only person who's thought about that. I was on Tumblr yesterday, and somebody had photoshopped a shot of bald Billy Zane in a green-colored version of that suit.
Oh, there you go.
See, I think... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry, and that was just their suggestion, like, Billy Zane should be, Lex Luthor. And, of course, it would be totally something Luthor would do.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, if he found Kryptonian technology, just sort of... Or maybe, because of LexCorp in this film, one of the other Kryptonians, their bodysuit damaged, the body armor got damaged, and he sort of found it and sort of, used it for his own purposes in the sequel.
I would not be at all surprised if... I think you were onto something, Manos, when you were talking about how the next logical step for the world would be to develop weapons to combat these people. I wouldn't be surprised if we got the combination of mad scientist and corporate tycoon Lex Luthor that Morrison did in his action run, where he's working with the military and developing weapons to...
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah. To fight the Kryptonians, and maybe he adopts some of the technology and is able to make it work and stuff. I think that would be awesome.
That'd be the only thing from 52 I would want to see them adapt.
Yeah, because I love Lex Luthor on the 52. I think he's great.
Me too. Yeah, I think he's great. That's a good point. That is what they should do if they do Lex. And some people are, a fair amount of people are saying, I don't want to see Lex. We've seen him in 3 Superman movies already. But I've also heard folks, I don't want to take credit for this idea, but I agree with it. I've also heard folks say, it could be if they do Lex in the sequel, it might be like Heath Ledger's Joker, where everybody doesn't want to see it because we've seen it too much, but then we get blown away by it.
Yeah. But, it's difficult at the moment because so many people have sort of thought of ideas who could be Lex, and it's very difficult to cast Lex. And someone also mentioned Billy Zane, and I've seen that name pop up a few times. So it's very interesting casting that they'd have to pull off for the sequel.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Billy Zane myself.
It's the Phantom.
He's a pretty good evil guy. Oh, His character in Titanic actually is a little Lex-like.
I would.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. He has a sort of threatening demeanor, which is cool.
What were you gonna say, Dan?
I would love to see Kevin Spacey play Lex Luthor in this universe.
Yeah, I would
too. Me too.
Me too.
So great. Because in this universe, we're gonna get deep, complex, the Lex Luthor from the comic books that we really like, the one that Azzarello did in that standalone graphic novel.
Lex Luthor, Man of Steel.
Yeah, we're gonna get
that title.
Yeah, we're gonna get that kind of Lex Luthor in whenever we see Lex. So I think Spacey would knock that out of the park. He did really well in Returns with what he was given.
Yeah.
But man.
But he wasn't playing the right version because he had to go back to what was done to Hackman. He had to go back to what was done before. And Dan, you and I have been saying this, man. After House of Cards, I've seen House of Cards twice now, and he's doing a Southern Lex Luthor.
President Lex Luthor, but from the South.
Yeah, and he's trying to become president. It's fantastic. Well, guys. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to ask you one more thing about going to the future before we leave off. We're almost at 2 hours. Would you guys prefer to see the Krypton stuff kind of distanced in the second movie, or do you want to see them do any more with it right away? Is it time to do a movie that's got really nothing to do with Krypton, or should we do more Krypton stuff?
I think they should have Krypton stuff in maybe the third film, but the sequel be no. move away from it, then go back to it in the third one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be nice to just get a film all about how Superman affects the world rather than going back to where he came from and how it affects him.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I would rather be at least a film away from that. You know, just one, at least, if they're going to do 3, the second one really should have some other threat.
I know a lot of people want
because in a way that would create the argument like, well, gee, Superman causes just as much problems.
See, that's just what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to see Brainiac in the sequel. I'd like to see him eventually, but not yet, because just like you said, if the next threat is from Krypton or from space having to do with Krypton, it's going to be like, well, God, Superman, if you would just leave, we wouldn't have all these interstellar threats that kill thousands of people and force you to rip their necks off.
Exactly. I know this is going to sound like an odd comparison, but the 2 Charlie's Angels movies, both plots of those movies are about villains trying to get revenge on Charlie. So it does beg the question, like, well, gee, you know, they don't solve any crimes, they just deal with the fallout from Charlie.
Yeah, if that guy would just go under a rock, everything would be fine.
Yeah, if we just have him arrested or killed, everything will be fine.
yeah, I agree, and I think that's doing Lex in the second movie would be perfect, to your point, because now that everybody knows Superman is the reason for the alien invasion, because it was broadcast all over the world, everybody can see his point of view. Like, if Superman wasn't here, all this bad stuff, Metropolis being destroyed, wouldn't have happened.
Well, one thing Eric said was that a studio is going to want to go bigger. And so it's going to be hard to just straight up do Lex. I agree with him, although, like, you don't want to go much bigger because we just blew up Metropolis in the first movie. You know, you're going to get really upset. I mean, Oliver already thinks the action is too absurd. Like, how much farther could you go? So I think the Cadmus idea is a really good one because, you know, we could still give Superman a big physical threat, but it wouldn't have to come from some other planet.
Yeah. I mean, look at that season of Justice League Unlimited. You know, they can model a Cadmus film somewhat similar to that.
Oh yeah, good point.
Very true.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this one last question. I'm sorry, I just thought of this. I know. Well, I'm sure our viewers are going to hope that we mention this, and I forgot about it. So the 4 of us liked the film quite a bit. Obviously, it's really polarizing. Obviously, this is not a film for everyone, which I like about it, because of the kind of film it is. I mean, it's very much for me. It's not necessarily for everybody. The problem is this gonna be the launching pad DC was hoping for, or Warner's was hoping for?
I think so. I mean, I've got a message like saying the box office is extremely good for this film, on, you know, breaking records for June, and I think even though it's got polarizing opinions, I think there's more positive that outweighs the negative, and I think really that we'll get the ball rolling, and there will be more adaptations of DC Comics.
Do you think that this is a good starting point to jump into the rest of the DC universe? I mean, I think so. I think even though you don't see a traditional style of Superman on screen, because obviously, you know, killing General Zod, but it's giving you a great science fiction film, and there's opportunities there to expand everything, and then throwing in characters like the Flash and Green Lantern again, or reboot, or like Wonder Woman. You can get away with it now, I think, and you can do it.
The one thing that I sort of resist about it because it does feel like it's set more in the DC universe, not just because of the little light drops that we talked about before with the Wayne Enterprises logo and stuff like that. I just don't think Metropolis as a city feels distinct enough. If you just turned the lights off, it could look like Gotham to me.
Yeah.
So, like, I'd like the DC universe to be a little bit more diverse. Like, I don't want the Flash's city to just look like that. You know, like, I want Keystone or Central City, wherever city they use, to look different. I want Coast City to look, if they eventually, you know, do Green Lantern again in some capacity. That's the only thing I sort of resist about it. But
I think filmmakers have kind of moved beyond doing something like that, though. I'll be honest with you, because I think in the 90s comic films, everybody was kind of riffing on what Tim Burton was doing in the way he personified Gotham City.
From Blade Runner.
Yeah, and obviously he picked it up from Blade Runner, but actually Anton first, really.
Okay.
But I mean, after Batman, like, kind of creating this Blade Runner-ish, Gotham-ish city that has a very specific character, almost to the cartoon level, that some filmmakers did. I don't know if we're in that era right now. I think right now we're in an era where the cities will be more realistic.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't need it to be like a cartoon city. I just would have liked it to look a little brighter for my taste. But the color palette of the film is kind of muted anyway, so I guess it would have looked weird if like everything else was muted and then Metropolis was like this golden, shining city.
And that's just in vogue right now, Dan. I mean, like I was feeling the same way I did about Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
I think you can make the case that, well, half of Metropolis was just destroyed. Maybe it will be rebuilt a little more fantastic.
That's a very good point. I didn't even think of that. And hopefully we'll get the Daily Planet glow. That'd be cool.
That's the point. You only see the globe at the end, don't you, when he walks into the Daily Planet? You just sit on the side, don't you?
Yeah, you don't see the outside. You just see the inside of the building.
Yeah.
I thought the building coming out on top of them was the Daily Planet building.
Oh, yeah, you might be right there.
But I'm not sure. I just assume
it's very difficult because the whole film has a very bizarre sense of geography. You can't really tell what area of the city you're in because you're not given enough long shots to sort of establish a scene. You're sort of given in the close up, then suddenly the building collapses. So yeah, there was a bit of a sense of confusion to the layout of the city.
Agreed. Yeah.
Well, I think we've really kind of exhausted everything, unless there's something that we should have brought up that somebody is thinking of.
Henry Cavill's great. I liked pretty much all the performances in the movie. They were fantastic.
Yeah, he's fantastic Superman. I'm very happy. I think he's fully, he's done a good job, and I think most Superman fans shouldn't have any complaint with him.
He had this this contagious kind of smile the few times we actually got to see him smile. Because a lot of people that aren't caring for the film, and again, I feel like a lot of these criticisms are valid. They're just not deal breakers for me. Folks are feeling like it's kind of joyless, and it's not the fun kind of Superman that people were expecting that it might be. I'm
seeing the word bleak being used a lot. It's dark and bleak,
which is interesting because it's got such a hopeful message. I mean, because it's an optimistic film toward the end, and I feel like you kind of got that bleak despair, that hopeless bleak despair, before you can really rise above it, right? Like that's kind of how that's just kind of how I saw it, where Krypton is really bleak because guess what? They blew up their own planet, right? And then he gets to Earth and it's better than Krypton in that we're not quite to that point yet, but it needs Superman to save it because it might someday get there. And again, there's these fears of kind of mass groupthink taking over individuality. I feel like that was a huge theme that played through the movie, and Superman is kind of standing for people's right to go their own way by also fulfilling his own preset destiny, which I think is a really interesting juxtaposition. And so I don't know, I feel like you kind of got to see a little bit of bleak to have that sense of hope at the end.
I think, and it's just the nature of the world we live in now. It's a lot. We see things through much more of a cynical lens, I think, than we used to. And the film reflects that. I just think it's trying to set itself in the real world.
And the sequel, I mean, it is a setup movie. The sequel is probably going to have a lot to do with how I ultimately perceive this movie. Because if the next film isn't shot with, a brighter color palette, I think that's a mistake.
I agree.
Definitely, yeah.
I think when you do a film about optimism or an optimistic hero, you have to contrast it with what's the opposite. Otherwise, you are making a corny movie. And I think that's the danger they would have been in if they hadn't have really set the tone to that extent.
Especially if you want it to be to look anything like real life. Not that this is as grounded as Nolan was trying to make his Batman, but it's not the comic book world of Donner's film either.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's not grounded in the sense that, like, they try to explain every little thing that Superman does, but, like, out in space, there's an infinite amount of possibilities that could be out there. It's a little bit more realistic than I think people might give it credit for. Like, the way Krypton looked, the technology looked like it was functional, I mean, as opposed to just, like, the crystals and the high fantasy stuff from the Donner films.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, one more time, was there anything else we should have talked about that we didn't talk about? I want to make sure everybody got to say whatever it was they wanted to say.
Yeah, I just can't stop talking about this movie enough because it's so dense, I think.
Has everyone only seen it once yet? Has everyone seen it more than once?
Yeah, I've only seen it once. I want to see it again. I'll probably have.
Yeah. I definitely want to see it again. I need to see it as soon as possible.
I wanted badly to see it again before this podcast, so I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I've only seen it once.
Didn't have.
I was going to see it today, but I was too hungover.
Well, on that note, everybody, thanks very much for listening to our panel on Man of Steel, and let us know what you think about the movie in the comments below, and we'll be back for more reviews really soon, and thanks again for listening. I'm Captain Logan, and I want to thank my guests, the Real Manos.
Hello, goodbye.
And I don't know why you say goodbye, Manos. I say hello, and thanks Dan.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me, man. I had a great time.
And thank you, Oliver, and let's do Superman Returns really soon.
Of course, matey. Yes, I look forward to it.
All right, thanks again, folks. I'm Captain Logan, and we're signing out.